Well, hi there. This is Susan McCord at the Augusta Chronicle. And today we're going to be speaking with Kelby Walker. He's a candidate in the special election for District 5 on the Augusta Commission. And Kelby, would you like to say a couple words to introduce yourself, and then we will ask Kelby questions. And if you'd like to ask Kelby something, put it in the comments under this video. Ms. Walker?
Yes, thank you, Ms. McCord, for this opportunity. Good morning. My name is Kelby Walker, candidate for District 5. As a lot of you may know, this is not my first time running. I ran 2 years ago in an unfortunate bid. I lost to a great man, former commissioner, Mr. Andrew Jefferson. A great man, a great pillar of the community. I'm running because I love Augusta. I am a native of Augusta, educated in Augusta, started my business here in Augusta, raised my children here in Augusta. Augusta can be the premier city in all of Georgia if we come together as one. You know, our great mayor, Hardy Davis, said, "One Augusta." And I believe, when he coined that phrase, I believed him, and I supported that. I'm running also in the District 5 to create wealth through small businesses. We know that small businesses create majority of the jobs in all of America. I'm running also to get young people engaged in the process. I started my political journey at the age of 7 when my grandmother yelled at the television in the 1980 Reagan and Carter results. Didn't know why, and I asked her, and she told me. From that point, it became part of my DNA. And I worked with various campaigns, directly, indirectly. I've been campaign manager. I've interviewed from the who's who in the political world here in Augusta, talking about the very issues that we face on a daily basis. I've been on the ground. I've been working. If you vote for me on March the 19th, I'll make you proud, and I'll make Augusta proud. Thank you.
Well, great, Kelby. So it's been, what, a couple of years since you ran for the commission? Is that the only time you run for commission? Okay.
Yes, that was the only time.
So how have you changed, since 2 years ago?
How have I changed? Well, I tell you this. I tell the story that when I ran against Mr. Jefferson, I really didn't know what I was up against. And society has always taught us that when you have an opponent, you go for the jugular. They're no friends of yours. They're the enemy. And Mr. Jefferson really changed that. He set the bar for me and others, simply because when there was things that he see that I was making a mistake at, he would call and he would say different things about, "Hey, Kelby, I think you're doing this wrong." And I would just be in awe that my opponent was teaching me along the way. So it taught me a lot. It was a blessing in disguise, I would say, that I lost that race. It taught me to be a better person. It taught me to look at individuals different. I commend anyone who step out and put themselves out in the forefront to be critiqued, to be criticized, because all that comes with, the territory. So for me, it has made me a better person. It made me look at the world differently, give me a different perspective about individuals, even if they are vying for the same seat that I am.
Okay. Well, so tell me, what sets you apart from the other 3 guys who are running for this commission seat?
Yeah, and the other 3 guys, I will say this: I've had the opportunity to have known Bernard, Mr. Former Commissioner Bernard Harper, for quite some time. Great guy. Just met interim commissioner Johnny Few and Mr. Bobby Williams, and I would say to all of them, a nice gentlemen, and it was a pleasure meeting them. But I've been in the trenches for, like I said, since the age of 7. This is not something that I wanted to do because of opportunity presented itself. I've been in the room with the commissioners and the mayor. I've called them via telephone to talk about issues and voice my concern. And as you know, when I was a GM or a radio show, we talked about these very issues. And a lot of times I've given my opinions, I've given my advice, and without saying what is, and I think a lot of the things that I've talked about has been implemented. So I know the field. I don't know what it feels like to be in the exact commission room, but I know about having that dialogue with commissioners and community leaders. And being a leader in that aspect of business, I feel give me that edge of going in this race and becoming your next commissioner of District 5.
And so in District 5, it's kind of a centrally located district, maybe kind of surrounded by all the other districts. I mean, what are the biggest issues that District 5 is facing?
Well, I believe we talk about community development. That's one of the biggest issues in District 5. You know, District 5 is very diverse. It's low, medium to medium-high income. And I think community development is one of our biggest issues. What do I mean by that? We have to change the relationship between ordinary people like myself and you, Susan, and with people in position of power. We have to all sit at the table and understand the issues that we're facing. Like I said before, that a lot of times you get these small media sound bites and people not understanding what's going on in the community, even if it's crime. And people talk about how do we bring down crime rate. A lot of people don't know what to look for. That's why we have law enforcement. We have the sheriff that I like to sit down and talk with and teach us how to identify these type of issues that we are facing. Those are the pros. Those are the people that get paid the big bucks. And so galvanizing, getting folks engaged, bringing the community together so everyone is on one accord and understanding the issues that we face and the challenges that we face, whether it's job, whether it's education, whether it's opportunity, what have you. I think those are our biggest issues that we're facing in District 5.
Well, one matter that's kind of had a lot of attention lately, maybe from the whole city, is the situation with the lock and dam. Can you give me your assessment of that situation and what you think should be done? Well,
there's been so much conversation about lock and dam, from ordinary citizens to Congressman Rick Allen, Jody Heiss, radio talk show Austin Rhodes, Brad Owens, Miss Tanya. Everybody has an opinion, and the city made an announcement that they're not going to put forth any more money for the study or what have you. So it's right now it's a wait and see game. Lock and dam has been a part of Augusta rich history for so very long. I remember going out as a kid and fishing and picnics and different things like that. I would love to save that rich history. Is it cost effective? I'm not sure. I know we can't afford to put millions and millions and millions of dollars with the upkeep of that. But if we can do all we can to save it, I'm all for it.
There seems to be a lot of concern about the water level and how it would be affected. I mean, what do you think about the water level itself? Is that important? Where should the water level be?
Well, to answer that question, I can't necessarily tell you about where the water level should be. I know our environment is very important. And if it has anything to do with the safety and well-being of our community, if it has anything to do with saving fish, and fishing is a way of life. If it has something to do with making sure we don't flood out here in Augusta, again, like I said before, I am all ears and concerned about where those levels should be.
What do you think is another issue that is, most important for the entire city that you haven't mentioned today?
Well, transportation. I think that's one of the driving forces to any metro thriving city. I don't think our transportation go far enough. I have my nephew that works with me. He canvassed with me. He's age of 19, and he stays in a income-based housing development, and he always asking for advice, and we talked about job and opportunity, and he doesn't have a car, and so from where he stays to the nearest bus stop is a quarter of a mile. And I feel like wherever there's urban housing or low-income housing, there should be transportation, because that means the difference between opportunity, education, and a job. And I don't think it reached far enough. And I often say that people who's seeking a job, can't afford Lyft and Uber. If in terms of getting on a bus and paying $2 to get on the bus and transfer, that's huge. So transportation is big. The extended routes, longer hours. We need to talk about that. And as your next commissioner, those are the things that I'll use my bullet pulpit to push transportation, so people like my nephew, single mothers, will have adequate transportation back to and forth to work.
One thing I have noticed is a lot of people seem to have, become Uber drivers or Lyft drivers. I mean, tons around Augusta. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah, you see that little light, and that every time you say, "What is that approaching you? Uber or Lyft?" Yes.
And I have run into people who did rely on, the bus service and are now, Uber does cost a little more, but. Yeah. They're just so grateful to have a ride.
Yeah.
Makes you realize how important it is, especially for young people. Mm-hmm. Especially if they really need to get to work.
Right.
It's just critical. And you mentioned, involving younger people in the process. I mean, how would you do that?
Well, easily. I'm very approachable, and one thing that I love engaging with young people, having kids myself, having teenagers, and we talk about all the issues. No issue is off limits to my kids and I. If it's on their mind, I want to talk about it. I want to be the one to give them advice. I don't know it all, but I love having communication with them. And I tell people that I raise voters. I raise people that are involved and engaged in the process, because I am a role model to them. And so they know that my motto is political. They know that we have to vote. And that is also important. Having the right to vote, having a say-so. And when you do so, you have a say-so in what goes on in your government, in your community, and your surroundings. I feel like that I can approach young people and they're not offended. I can talk with them, and they feel comfortable talking with me. So I feel good by going forward, talking to young people, getting them involved in the process so they can understand and have a sense of role of government and how important it is and how conducive it is to their life.
issue that just comes up, over and over again with the commission. I think probably 6 or 7 years the city has kind of gone rounds with its EMS provider, its current provider. What do you
CMS?
think?
Emergency
Ambulance service.
Okay.
Gold Cross. There's just been kind of a back and forth for years. What do you think about that situation? I mean, is that ever going to be resolved, and what can be done?
Well, first and foremost, you have to look out for the welfare and safety of our citizens and community. Yes, there is. It needs to be resolved. Taking an ambulance ride now is costly. $900, $1,100 a ride. And my thing is, we need to put the citizens first. I don't think we should develop another ambulance service. I don't think the fire department is asking to develop create another ambulance service. But I'm all for whoever gets there first to help that person in need. I think that's what needs to happen. But I just think we just have to have an adult conversation about it and move forward. Because the last thing we need is the public to see that we're fighting on, who gonna be there to survive there in a situation to survive. The welfare and safety of our community should be first and foremost.
And welfare and safety, maintenance, I guess, is a part of that. Recently, I guess we had this very tragic situation with the child that got electrocuted somehow. I mean, does the city have just a facilities maintenance problem, and what can be done about that?
Well, even that is one of my bulletin points on my flyers, is to ensure that all our recreation parks are safe for our kids to play. Again, I've had a son to play rec ball since the age of 6, and I missed only one game. It was, and that's when I was in Atlanta in business. Since then, and so I understand the importance of having a safety net for our kids, because just like that young man was tragically killed, it could have been my kid, your kid, or anyone else. But I can assure you, as your next commissioner, that we will put those safety nets, and I will work with the commissioners and work with the mayor and the city administrator to ensure that this doesn't happen again. We've had some unfortunate incident that's dated back 25 years ago. I think someone has dropped the ball. Who's that person to drop the ball? I don't know. But we have to get down to the bottom of it to make sure that never, ever happens again. This is a city park where people that are entrusted in our city officials and our elected officials, that they can go out there and work and play and have fun, enjoy their kids with their pets. And we just have to give them that safety net, ensure them that when they're out there, that they're safe. We'll do that. We'll do that. I'll do that as your next commissioner.
Okay, so I know we've talked about your family before. I mean, you have a few kids. I mean, you have a pretty big family?
Yes. I'm proud to say that I have 6 beautiful kids. I've graduated 3 and waiting on the other 3 to get out the way. I do have an aspiring junior that will be a senior next year. I have an 8th grader who, for the first time at Langford Middle School, went out, didn't have any idea that he had interest in baseball, made the baseball. Very athletic young man. That's the young man that worked, that played rec ball from the age of 6. And then I have a 2nd grader who is over in the gifted program, IB program over at Lake Forest. And that environment is superb. I love it. And if I about environment and talking about the kids, all of my kids have been honor kids, or been in the honor program or college programs. I'm proud to say that. And I would like to say that their mother and I had a lot to do with that. Yes, I have a pretty sizable family. I'm proud to say that, and I love each and every one of them. And I'm gonna continue to do what I can to impress them, to be their role model going forward.
If you could change, one specific thing about the local government, what would it be?
Communication. I think there is a lack of communication, and I think communication is the key. Yeah, it's the driver with business deals. It's the driver for family decisions, for relationships.
Communication between the government or the elected officials?
Yeah,
what kind of communication?
The elected officials. I think there's been a breakdown in communication. To people get mad on certain issues and they won't talk to or communicate with one another about certain issues. And I think when that happens, it tears the community in half, and you can see it throughout the commission meetings or what have you. And I feel going in that I will be able to communicate with the other constituents, and we work together to make Augusta the premier city in the state of Georgia.
And so Augusta is kind of run by this 10-member commission, plus a mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you see as the role of, an individual commissioner?
Yeah. So we know the general things of a commissioner: appropriations and ordinance and general functions, taxation. We know that. But I like to call the commissioners the COO. Well, as the charter stated, that the mayor is the CEO. So I like to consider ourselves as the COO, the chief operating officers of a district. Yet again, we have to look out for the welfare and the safety of our city. We have to be that liaison that go out and say, hey, look at us over here. We're doing great things over here in our community. Hey, let's start a business here. We got great schools in our community. The overall perspective of a commissioner is to not only move his community forward, but move the city forward as a whole. And I think if we put ourselves and cement our feet in that role, we can do great things here in Augusta.
Have you served on any boards, city boards,
security boards? Well, Susan, I tell you this. Even working on various campaigns or behind the scenes, I've stated to several commissioners that didn't want to be on a board. Just because I helped you because I wanted to be a servant to the community and help someone that I believed in get elected. So no, I'm not been on any boards. I've been asked, and I just choose not to, be on a board.
Okay, was there an instance, maybe where you have shown leadership in a situation where it was needed?
Oh yeah. So we, like I said, this is not my first rodeo. So back in 2010-9, where there was an incident over at the Urban Towers elderly home, where they was in deplorable conditions and the elevators were down. We led that charge to get those elevators operable again, along with my campaign manager, Mr. Ray Jenkins. We led that charge of when we fought against MCG wanting to close down Laney Walker. We led that We led that charge. I remember back some 10 years ago when we would feed people at the Johnson Community Center dealing with Thanksgiving. The first year we fed over 300 people. I initiated the first ever Ryan Clark Scholarship. My former business partner and I, Ms. Quartisha Lovett, gave away $3,500 in honor of the young man that was tragically killed in the shooting at Virginia Tech. Indirectly, directly, I've worked behind the scenes with various elected officials. So yes, I've displayed leadership. My role as a GM on the radio, WEZO, as a host. So yes, I've displayed leadership roles.
Are you on the radio now?
No, I'm not on the radio
now. All right. Let's see. Another issue that's always the commission is always talking about is blight and abandoned buildings. I mean, how much of a problem do you think that is in District 5, and what could be done?
Well, if you look on as far as the storefronts, not a lot of it. But if you go within the community, there are a lot of dilapidated, blighted homes that need to be addressed. And we also know that when you have blight and you have dilapidated homes, then there's chances of crime rate going up. There's a chance of a safety net going down for kids going into homes and getting involved and just being kids and hurting themselves. So there is an issue. And anytime you have blight and anytime you have dilapidated homes or anything like that, there's always an issue and there's always a concern that must be addressed.
There are a few city services. There's the golf course, I guess, is one. EMS and probation that have been both, run by the local government or run by an outside private provider, and the city seems to go back and forth. How do you feel about privatized services versus government-run services? For instance, a couple of years ago, the commission, created a, Richmond County Probation Office. Mm-hmm. Well, now they're putting that back out for bids. It hasn't been all that long. I mean, what do you think about private versus government-provided services?
Well, I don't have a problem with the private if there are caps, if they're not over charging people that are fine. A lot of the people that are fine can't afford their fine. If it's within their income, if it's something that they can afford, say they don't have to continue to go back through that revolving door, I don't have a problem with it being privatized. I just don't want private companies overcharging our citizens and they can't afford it, and then they in turn end up back in jail or higher fees that they'll never get. I look at it as it was like a title pawn or a title loan. You just keep paying and paying and it never ends. So it needs to be a begin date and an end date without excessive fees.
Well, we're still waiting on some questions from viewers. It doesn't seem like they've asked any, although we do have a few people watching the video today, so that's good. How do you think the government could be more transparent, and open about how it is spending taxpayers' money?
Being transparent, just
how do they go? How do they go about doing
well,
that?
As an elected official, you have the bulletproof here. We have so many resources. We have so many avenues as an elected official There's nothing in charter or nothing that's on the book to say that you can't do exactly what we're doing. Having sit down conversation, having Commissioner Sammy Sides does a great job by having a quarterly or monthly breakfast and bringing different issues to the table. I attended his breakfast last week, if I'm not mistaken, and Jerry Sams over the procurement department was there and laying out how to attract small business and vendors and being responsible for over $400 million. Just laying it out. Open up, we shouldn't just be seen by WJBF or you or the Chronicle. We have to take it upon ourselves and be not a civil servant to the people by talking about these very issues that we are facing. We, as an elected official, we're working for the people. They're not working for us. So we owe that to them, that any issue that it may be of concern that's dealing with their tax dollars, we must be open and honest to talk about. I will say this, Ms. McCord, that's why I'm for, as a commissioner, having a office or a secretary, simply because, everybody don't get a chance to get to the commission. He answered the phone. But if he has a secretary and he has an office and someone that he has to get back, that's why I want to implement a community report card. We've all been, at one point in time, have been scored by a report card. I believe having a community report card can tell what we're doing. It can highlight the things that needs to be done and address the issues in our community. And as the citizens, you can grade us. We don't have to wait to forms. You don't have to wait till you say, and you often hear people say all the time, I don't see you till you run, or it's time for election. Well, we can change that by implementing that community report card on the mayor, on the commissioners, on every department head. We can do that. And through that community report card, it will allow us to be very transparent on the projects that we're talking about. And if we don't create that narrative, if we don't step up to the plate, then you, the citizens, will be able to grade us. That's why I would like to implement that community report card. So when we talk about transparency, it'll be laid out for us.
Another issue that's been talked about a lot, the new stormwater fee. I guess it's been showing up on water bills for, I don't know, maybe 3 years now. Intended to address stormwater issues and maintenance. It's provided, maybe an extra $15 million a year for that. I mean, how do you feel like the stormwater program has worked out for the city?
Well, I think that is important. If you look at, we have over 50 drainage projects outside of the stormwater fee that wasn't funded. When you talk in terms of Riceboro sinkhole collapse, Mims Road, Birdwell, Patterson Bridge, those things, and having those issues, this is where stormwater come in. And you think of terms of cyber and other industries and our infrastructure. This helps us along with the infrastructure, the drainage, the ditches, and stuff like that. So I think it's very, very, very important that we have the fee so we can address these issues.
Do you feel like flooding is still a big issue in District 5?
Well, not necessarily 5, but in 1, there is some infrastructure issues definitely in 1. I don't see the District 5 is flooded as area as you would see in 1, because 5 is pretty hilly. If you go out through the Bellamede or Deansbridge Road or Meadowbrook area, you're talking about very steep, hilly type of communities. But the District 1, they've always, since, I've been in Augusta all my life, and there have been some flooding issues that I think we need to address.
And you mentioned cyber, which is, expected to do much for the area.
Mm-hmm.
Should the city be doing more to support this incoming industry?
Absolutely. We have to roll out the red carpet. That was $100 million investment. Thank former Governor Nathan Deal for entrusting in Augusta to take on such a role. Cyber schools. When you look in terms of that, you're talking about a very big economical impact. Students finding a pathway to careers, people relocating here. I think because of cyber, we've regained that second largest city in the state of Georgia status. I think we have fell behind to Columbus. So people are looking at cyber and being considered one of the cyber center of the world. I think there were 7 cities that was in the running, and Augusta is one of them. And so that's very important. And so I'll definitely, as your next commissioner, push forward that the initiatives of cyber, different hubs and different things like that around the city, and we'll do that. I'm excited, and I think the citizens of Augusta excited. The eye is on us.
I mean, you're a small businessman. Can you see yourself, maybe somehow becoming a part of that economy?
Oh, definitely. Any kind of economical impact that drives, generates revenue, absolutely. As a small business, anything that'll turn a customer my way, I'm for it. Yes, absolutely.
So we've got a question that came in over Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one I've heard before. What can be done to help South Augusta get a hospital?
Now, I made mention of that last night on a Facebook post, watching a ambulance turn from Tobacco Road to Windsor Spring Road. And my mind just got churning about, wow, that destination spot, if I'm a betting man, is a hospital downtown. And my concern at that point is, what's the severity of their issue? Could it be heart? Could it be trauma? And 15-minute ride at least, would you say? 15, 20 minutes from that area to downtown. It could be, the difference between life and death. Columbia County applied for a certificate to get a hospital. And there's a fight. There's a lawsuit, if I'm not mistaken, by doctors. So it'll be a challenge. But I think it's much needed in that area, due in fact that you have 100,000+ people in south of Richmond County, municipality. It could be a municipality of itself. I think it's a very needed entity. It will provide jobs. It will save lives. And so, as a commissioner, I'll do all I can to look at that, to see how we could receive a certificate, see if we could put a temporary hospital in place, not as big, but at least to handle trauma and heart, those type of issues.
Great, and another topic that's, I guess, going to be coming up more and more, we've been paying the 1% transportation sales tax, for the last 7 years or so. It's gone into a lot of road projects, Riverwatch County, and so they're getting ready to put together a new transportation sales tax package. I mean, have you thought about what the new transportation needs might be, and how important is continuing that sales tax for transportation?
Oh, absolutely. It's I think it's very important. If you think in terms of Riceboro Road, a road that I frequent quite often, and it's a corridor to major shopping because Augusta Mall is right there, and there's a lot of issues with Riceboro Road, and those type of 1 cent sales tax help alleviate those problems and help fix those infrastructure problems. And so I think it's very important that our roads and our bridges are safe for our drivers and our citizens. That can be a factor where people can get to work on time when you have safe roads. It can be a factor where a person can go without having to spend out extra money for repairs in their cars because of potholes in the middle of a road. So I would love to see our roads paved. I would love to see there are lines to indicate what side of the road that you should be on. I think that is very, very important to the citizens and also to future business people here in Augusta. When you think in terms of safe roads and you think in terms of paved roads, you might have a business owner say, you know what, I would like to locate a business on there. It's good for my potential customers. So my answer is very important.
And maybe tied in with that, do you think there's wasteful spending within the government? Are there areas you might think money could be saved?
Well, not having all the ins and out of what is wasted and what money is going towards, but sure, we all have a waste, even in our personal lives. And if there is wasteful spending, we'll get in there and we'll look at it, and we'll take from that wasteful spending and allocate those funds for other resources that are needed for that money. But I'm sure there is.
Another question from Facebook about a topic that comes up often. What should be done with Regency Mall?
Regency Mall, it is the biggest eyesore coming from downtown or that corridor of Gordon Highway entering into South Augusta. I passed it this morning, and if you notice, they've taken up all the cement, and it's pretty much just muddy waters out there, especially when it rains. In 2016, I proposed a multi-sports complex center. We know multi-sports is a multi-billion-dollar business. And when I look at it from the perspective of sports, it brings all type of people, race, nationalities together. I look in terms of in events. I look in terms of championship events. If you look at what they have over in North Augusta, and they have the Peach Jam, and that is an annual tournament that draws about 12,000 people annually. And I was thinking, Augusta, we could do that. We have a valuable parking. We have a structure there that is sound. We understand that people love sports, health, and wellness. Not only that, it can bring the private sector and small business. Maybe someone want to open up a lemonade shop or a smoothie shop or a vitamin shop. We can incorporate all those things. And I can see that happening. I can see going down Gordon Highway and all the sport flags are waving through the breeze. And I think it would be a very good and innovative idea to put a multi-sports complex center there. Not if that doesn't work, We can always look at cyber. We can always look at hubs there. We know that creates jobs. That we know that on a daily basis that you will have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people go there. What does that do for the community? It springs up different hotels, restaurants, small businesses. Anything that drives small businesses to pop up, to storefronts, I think would be very, very good for the Regency Mall.
Another question from the audience. I guess around the time of the elections last year, there was some real disagreement on the commission involving the new District 10 commissioner. Some Facebook posts. If elected, would you be willing to work with all 9 commissioners going forward? Why or why not?
Absolutely. I tell you why. I've been in contact with Commissioner Clark, and that's Commissioner District 10, and he and I have had some very good conversations about the future of Augusta. I would say this, and he would, his action would have to prove otherwise than what he's talked to me about. But John, Commissioner Clark, it seems is very progressive. He talked to me about after-school programs. He talked to me about initiatives dealing with shelters, dealing with transportation. I'm a person spiritually that connects with people spirit, and I can sense if they're shooting me some BS. But from the conversation that I had with Commissioner Clark, I think he's very, very sincere about what he wants for Augusta. I think that we've all had moments in our life that we've had dark moments. We've had dark areas. I'm sure, I've been in that dark place. But when you decide to run, you're saying a lot being a civil servant for the people. That means you've stepped out of your dark place into the light. And so I believe that if we consider ourselves believers and Christian people, and one of the first things that God talks about is forgiveness. There's no way that I can sit and hold, if he asks for an apology and he says that he's sorry, who am I to judge and hold that against him? And just, again, going back to those conversations that we've had, I look forward to working with him. And to answer your question, absolutely. I look forward to working with the other 9 commissioners and the mayor and the city administrator to move this city forward.
Another question that's come in. The city has signed off on converting, I'm not sure exactly how far along this project is, but converting the old jail there at 401 Walton Way into some kind of youth development center, downtown-ish. What do you think about that plan, and how high a priority is our youth in general for you?
Well, so we've heard that building was infested with mold. Those rooms that it was infested with mold. And so for that reason alone, absolutely not. For the safety and well-being and the welfare of our kids, absolutely not. In terms of that area being a location for development, I don't know if I'm high on the idea that the jail sits adjacent to that. But as far as youth, anything that we can do to show them a brighter path, show them a way of becoming career-minded or business-oriented, a way to create a longevity, I'm all for that. So many of our youth are caught up in video games, are caught up in the street, are caught up just by mere peer pressure of trying to be part of the clique. And that goes along with bullying. And we have to take responsibility in some of that. And that's why I often tell my kids that if you're fortunate enough to have something that another kid does not have, don't brag about it. Because in this day and time, that is a sense of bullying. And then kids don't have the motivation to go to school because they feel like they're less of and less than. So we have to take priority in our youth, in their mindset, and going forward, because whether we want to believe this or not, they are our future. And so we take part in conducting and directing these young people who will eventually be taking care of us.
And another issue that's been in the news a lot lately, I think the commission years ago had, said that these exotic dance clubs couldn't serve alcohol,
Yeah.
and we have a couple that have been allowed to remain open downtown and will, I guess, until the owner passes on.
Excuse me.
But in that discussion, it came up that maybe we should allow alcohol in these clubs if they were located, in another area like a light industrial district.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about whether we should, allow strip clubs with alcohol in certain other areas of the city?
Absolutely. I think they would have to change the ordinance on that. But absolutely. My mindset going forward that you cannot legislate morale. Back in my early days, I would frequent strip clubs. That was part of entertainment. It's within the law. These places, you have to get a license and a permit to do such or to be an exotic dancer. It's nothing that is illegal. I've frequented the discotheque a time or two, and I never had an issue there. There's never been any violence or anything, and they sold alcohol. I think people are looking for fun. Some people have a different type of taste for fun. Or maybe concert. This person may like adult entertainment. If it's within the law, if it's fair, I think that we should. We dropped the ball with Exmart when we tried to keep their doors closed, and I think that city ended up having to pay north of $500,000. We can't afford those things. Again, we cannot legislate morale. If there's something that you don't want to take part in, you don't have to take part in it. But there are other people who feel that that's what they like, that's what they indulge in, that's their vice, and I'm all in support of that.
Just a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. We touched on this earlier, but maybe I didn't ask you specifically.
Yes.
What your thoughts were on the recent drawdown of the river, and also what are your thoughts on the proposal to start charging people to park downtown?
Okay.
Those two things, and then we'll close up.
Yeah. So the parking has always been an issue. I am on the fence about the parking fee issue. I think there needs to be more detail. Even going back, I talked about we have to be innovative and creative. I would like to see state-of-the-art parking decks directly in where the center of Broad Street, where they park at in those wells. I think we could do that. Maybe 7, 8 stories high that with provided security. I think a lot of times that deter people from going downtown because there's a parking issue. And if we do decide to have a fee, I think it should be something that is comparable to what our citizens can afford. I think that you charge, charge Monday through Friday and weekends and holidays absolutely free. That's when you get majority of your customers on the weekend. After 6 o'clock on Friday, it should be free for all citizens. Our thing is to have our citizens to enjoy the luxuries of downtowns, the bars and the restaurants. We don't want to drive them away. We don't want to send them to surrounding counties. We don't want to send them to Columbia County or North Augusta or places like that. We want them to be a part of our downtown, the fabric of Augusta. And so I will get in and indulge and converse with our commissioners and see how we can, the most important thing to me is how we make our citizens happy. We need input from them. We shouldn't just push something or shove something down their throat. Their input is very, very important to us. That's what I would do. I would call town hall meetings to see what they would have to say about these fees and charges and different plans going forward dealing with our parking issue.
And then the drawdown, people that I guess work or live near the river, tend to be pretty shocked at how low it got, and you probably really didn't want the river to be that way. Did you get a chance to look at it just to see?
No, Susan, no, I did not. I apologize for that. But I will say this, that if it has anything to do with the health and safety of our citizens, and those are dangerously low levels, I think we should work with people or whoever is an expert or whoever knows that type of work. We need to work with them to get those levels back to where they need to be.
Okay, great. Well, we've been talking today with Kelby Walker. He's a candidate for District 5 in the special election next month. I think early voting actually starts Monday in this election. It's been great talking to you today, and I appreciate the questions that came in over Facebook. And if you'd like to say a few words to close out, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Augusta Chronicle, for having all the candidates in, and thank you for having me. My name is Kelby Walker, and this election is March 19th. It's very important election. It's a special election. First, I'd like to encourage each and every one that in District 5 to get out and vote. No matter who you're voting for, it's important that you get engaged in the process so you'll have a voice, so you know who is representing you. And you have to have the proper representation going forward in our city. Our city is a dynamic city. Our city is evolving. It's inevitable that we're going to be one of the premier cities in all the state of Georgia. And you need someone who's ready to lead that charge, someone who's ready to take the critique, someone who will fight for not just the citizens of District 5, but the citizens of Augusta. I love Augusta. I've been a part of Augusta for 45 years. I raised my kids here in Augusta. I started my business here in Augusta. And when I moved to Atlanta to open up places in the mall, I thought about Augusta every day. And I thought about the things that Atlanta had that Augusta should have. We can do that. We're that great. We can make Augusta great again. And I'm telling you, if you vote for me on March 19th, I'll go down and I'll work with the commissioners. I'll work with the mayor. I'll work with the city attorney and the city administrator. I'm only one vote, but I can guarantee you that I go down there to make the right decisions for you, the citizens of Augusta. I thank you. I thank you, the citizens of Augusta. God bless you. God bless Augusta. Kelby Walker, March 19th. I need your vote. Thank you.